Have you ever poured your heart into something, a dream, a project, a goal, only to look around and realize no one's cheering for you? Picture Michael, a 29-year-old barista in Seattle, grinding through night classes to become a teacher. He's burning the candle at both ends. But his friends don't get it. His family thinks he's chasing a pipe dream, and the silence feels deafening. Ever been there? Carl Jung, the legendary psychologist, said that in our loneliest moments, we find our greatest strength not from others, but from within. In this video, we're diving into 4 powerful steps, inspired by Jung's wisdom, to help you get ahead, even when no one's by your side. From real-life stories to practical tools, you'll learn how to turn loneliness into fuel, failure into fire, and silence into power. Stick around until the end for the one step that'll show you how to become your own light. Ready to rise? Hit that like button and let's start this journey together. Let's start with a story. Meet Sarah, a 34-year-old marketing analyst in Chicago. She's worked hard to climb the corporate ladder, but recently, things feel off. Her friends, once her go-to for late-night chats, have drifted into their own lives, marriages, kids, new cities. At work, her colleagues are friendly, but distant, focused on their own grind. Sarah still shows up, smiles, delivers, but inside, she feels a key touch. Why does it feel like I'm on this journey alone? She wonders. That ache, that sense of disconnection, isn't failure. It's a signal. Carl Jung called it the night sea journey. A dark, solitary passage where your soul begins to peel away the masks you've worn to fit in. In this chapter, we'll explore how loneliness, far from being your enemy, is your greatest teacher, one that pushes you to find strength within when no one else is there. What is this night sea journey? Jung described it as a phase where you're stripped of external validation, forced to face your shadow, the hidden parts of yourself you've ignored. Like fear, doubt, or shame, loneliness isn't just about being physically alone. It's feeling disconnected from the world that once defined you. For Sarah, it's the realization that her old friendships no longer spark joy, that her job feels hollow despite her success. Jung would say, this is no accident. When the world pulls away, it's not to punish you, it's to invite you inward, to meet your true self. The self, in Jungian terms, is your core, the part of you that doesn't need applause to know its worth. But to reach it, you must walk through the fog of loneliness. Why does this matter? Because society tells us loneliness is a weakness, something to fix with more friends, more likes, more noise. But Jung saw it differently. He believed true growth happens when you dare to stand alone. When you stop running from the silence and start listening to it. Think about Sarah again. At first, she tried to fill the void, scrolling social media, texting old friends, staying late at work to feel needed. But the emptiness grew. Then one night, she did something different. She turned off her phone, sat on her couch, and let the silence wash over her. For 5 minutes, she just breathed, asking herself, what am I really feeling? The answer came slowly: fear of being left behind, sadness that her life wasn't what she'd imagined. But in that quiet, she also felt something new, a spark of clarity, a whisper of her own voice saying, "You're enough." That's the gift of loneliness. It forces you to confront the parts of yourself you've avoided. Jung called this meeting the shadow, where you face the insecurities or wounds you've buried. For Sarah, It was the fear that she wasn't interesting enough without her old social circle. For you, it might be something else, a worry that you're not successful enough, not loved enough. Loneliness doesn't create these feelings, it reveals them. And when you face them, you start to build a foundation no one can shake. Jung once said, "In all chaos, there is a cosmos. In all disorder, a secret order." Loneliness feels chaotic, but it's preparing you for a deeper kind of strength, one that doesn't depend on others. Here's a real-world example. Consider David, a 27-year-old graphic designer in Atlanta. After moving to a new city for a job, he found himself alone, no friends, no family nearby. At first, he felt invisible, like his efforts didn't matter. But instead of chasing connections, he started a small ritual every evening. He'd walk to a park, sit on a bench, and journal. "What do I want from this life?" he'd write. Over weeks, he realized he'd been living for others' approval, his parents' expectations, his old friends' validation. In solitude, he discovered his passion for illustration, something he'd pushed aside to fit in. That loneliness wasn't empty. It was the space where he found his purpose. So, how do you embrace loneliness as a teacher? Start small. Try sitting in silence for 5 minutes a day. No phone. No distractions. Just you and your thoughts. Ask, what's this loneliness trying to show me? Maybe it's a fear you've ignored, a dream you've shelved. Write it down. Jung believed journaling is a way to dialogue with your unconscious, to bring the shadow into the light. Don't judge what comes up, just listen. Over time, you'll hear your inner voice more clearly, guiding you toward what really matters. Another practice is to reframe loneliness as solitude. Loneliness feels like lack. Solitude feels like power. When Sarah sat on her couch, she wasn't just alone, she was choosing to be with herself. Try this next time you feel isolated. Do something intentional for you. Cook a meal you love. Read a book that sparks your curiosity. Or take a walk and notice the world around you. These small acts remind you that you're not waiting for someone else to make you whole. You're already complete. Loneliness is your soul's gym, forging resilience in the quiet moments no one sees. Jung taught that the path to individuation, becoming your true self, starts here, in the silence where you learn to trust your own voice. Every step you take alone builds a strength that no crowd can give you. So, if you're feeling unseen right now, know this: you're not lost. You're on the cusp of discovering who you really are. Let's make this personal. Have you ever felt loneliness teach you something unexpected? Share your story in the comments, it might light the way for someone else. And if this resonates, hit that like button and subscribe to Jung's Psyche Hub for more tools to turn solitude into strength. Up next, we'll explore how to stop seeking comfort from others and start soothing yourself. Let's step into a story. Meet Emma, a 23-year-old college student in Boston, chasing her dream of becoming a journalist. She's burning the midnight oil, juggling classes, internships, and a part-time job. But her family doesn't get it. "Why don't you pick a practical major like accounting?" her dad says at every family dinner. Emma feels the sting of being unseen, and her first instinct is to vent. "No one understands how hard I'm trying." She texts friends, posts on social media, hoping someone will validate her struggle. But the replies are sparse, and the complaints only make her feel heavier. Sound familiar? Carl Jung would say. Emma's caught in a trap, leaning on others to soothe her pain, and letting complaints anchor her in a victim mindset. In this chapter, we'll explore 2 key steps to getting ahead when no one's there for you: learning to self-soothe and letting go of complaints to reclaim your power. First, let's talk about self-soothing. Jung believed that seeking emotional comfort from others, whether it's validation, reassurance, or sympathy, keeps you tethered to an unintegrated ego, a part of you that craves external approval to feel okay. When Emma vents to her friends, she's not just sharing, she's handing over her emotional stability, hoping someone else will make her feel whole. Jung called this emotional projection, where you look to others to mirror your worth. But here's the truth. No one can be your anchor forever. The more you rely on external comfort, the more you lose your ability to stand alone. Self-soothing is about becoming your own safe haven, the one who listens to your pain without needing someone else to fix it. How do you start? Try this simple practice when you feel the urge to seek comfort like Emma, wanting to text her friends. Pause and place a hand on your heart. Breathe deeply and say to yourself, "I'm here for me." It sounds small, but it's powerful. This act tells your unconscious that you are enough to hold your emotions. Emma tried this one night after a tough day. Instead of texting her friends, she sat quietly, breathed, and whispered, "I'm doing my best." And that's enough. The ache didn't vanish, but it softened. She felt a spark of strength, like she was parenting her own heart. Jung would call this a step toward individuation, where you become your own emotional anchor, free from the need for others to validate your worth. Another tool is journaling your emotions. When you feel dismissed or alone, write down exactly what's stirring inside. I'm upset because my dad doesn't see my effort. I'm scared I'll fail. Don't judge it, just let it flow. This practice, rooted in Jung's idea of dialoguing with the unconscious, helps you name your feelings without letting them control you. Emma started journaling nightly, and over weeks, she noticed a shift. She wasn't just venting, she was understanding herself. Her need for others' approval faded, replaced by a quiet confidence that she could handle her own storms. Now, let's tackle complaining. Jung saw complaints as the language of the victim ego, a part of the shadow that thrives on self-pity. When Emma says, "No one understands me," she's not just expressing frustration, she's reinforcing a belief that she's powerless, that her happiness depends on others. Complaining feels like action, but it's a trap. It keeps you stuck, spinning the same story of "why me?" instead of asking, "What can I do?" Jung once said. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Every complaint is your unconscious running the show, convincing you the world owes you something. But the moment you stop, you take back control. Here's a real-world example. Meet Jason, a 31-year-old tech support specialist in Denver. After a promotion passed him by, he spent months complaining to coworkers, "I work harder than anyone." But no one notices. The more he vented, the more powerless he felt. Then he tried something different. Inspired by a podcast about Jung, he started asking, "What can I do with this?" Instead of "Why me?" he began taking online courses to upskill, setting small goals each week. When he caught himself wanting to complain, he'd write the thought down, then flip it. Instead of saying, "I'm overlooked," "I'll focus on what I can improve." Over time, his mindset shifted. He wasn't a victim, he was a creator of his own path. A year later, he landed a better role, not because someone handed it to him, but because he stopped letting complaints drain his energy. How do you stop complaining? Try the 3-second pivot. When you feel the urge to vent, "No one cares about my effort," pause for 3 seconds. Breathe. Then ask, "What's one small action I can take right now?" Maybe it's signing up for a course, writing a goal, or even taking a walk to clear your head. This pivot, inspired by Jung's idea of redirecting unconscious energy, turns self-pity into progress. Emma started doing this. Replacing "my family doesn't get me" with "I'll write one article this week to prove I'm on the right path." Each action built her resilience, proving she didn't need others' approval to move forward. One last practice: create a gratitude anchor. Every day, write down one thing you're proud of about yourself. No matter how small. "I showed up today. I kept going." This shifts your focus from what's missing to what's within you. Jung believed gratitude aligns you with yourself, the core that holds your true strength. When you stop complaining and start appreciating your own efforts, you're not just surviving loneliness, you're thriving in it. Self-soothing and stopping complaints are acts of emotional independence. They free you from the trap of needing others to define your worth. Jung taught that true power comes when you stop looking outward and start building inward. So, the next time you feel alone or tempted to vent, pause, breathe, and choose yourself. That's how you get ahead when no one's there. Let's make this real. What's one complaint you're ready to let go of? Or a moment you soothed yourself? Share it in the comments. It could inspire someone else. And if this is hitting home, hit that like button and subscribe to Jung Psyche Hub for more tools to rise on your own. Next, we'll explore how to validate yourself and turn failure into fuel. Let's dive into a story. Meet Lucas, a 26-year-old entrepreneur in Seattle, who poured everything into his first tech startup. He worked nights, weekends, and skipped vacations, believing his app would change lives. But 6 months after launch, it flopped, barely any downloads, no investors, and his savings drained. Friends stopped asking about it. His family hinted he should get a real job. Lucas felt crushed, like his dream was a mistake. His instinct was to give up, to hide from the shame. But then he remembered something a mentor once said. Inspired by Carl Jung, your failures don't define you, they refine you. In this chapter, we'll explore 2 powerful steps to get ahead when no one's there for you: validating your own worth and turning failure into a fire that fuels your growth. All rooted in Jung's wisdom. First, let's talk about self-validation. Jung taught that true strength comes from the self, your inner core that doesn't need external applause to know its value. When Lucas's startup failed, he craved reassurance from others. "Tell me I'm not a failure." But Jung would call this a trap of the dependent ego, seeking external mirrors to reflect worth. The world can't always see your effort. And that's okay. It's not their job. Self-validation means becoming your own witness, recognizing your worth even when no one claps. Jung once said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." Why? Because it means standing in your truth, flaws and all, without needing someone else to say, "You're enough." How do you do this? Start with a simple practice. Celebrate your own wins. Every week, write down 3 things you're proud of. No matter how small. "I worked hard on a project." "I showed up despite feeling low." Lucas tried this after his startup crashed. He wrote, "I built something from scratch. I learned coding. I took a risk." At first, it felt forced, but over time, he saw his effort, not his outcome, defined his value. This practice, rooted in Jung's idea of integrating the self, shifts your focus from external praise to inner truth. You don't need a crowd to know you're moving forward, just your own honest gaze. Another tool is reframing your narrative. When Lucas felt like a failure, he was stuck in a story. "I'm not good enough. But Jung believed every struggle is a chance to meet your shadow, the hidden fears or insecurities you've buried. Instead of hiding, Lucas asked, "What's this failure teaching me?" He realized his shadow was a fear of not being successful enough in others' eyes. By naming it, he took its power away. Try this when you feel unseen. Write down the story you're telling yourself: "I'm a failure because no one noticed." Then rewrite it: "I'm growing because I dared to try." This shift aligns you with yourself, not your ego's need for approval. Now, let's talk about turning failure into fuel. Jung saw failure not as a dead end, but as a spotlight on the parts of you that need healing. Every time you fall like Lucas's startup flop, it's a chance to face your shadow and grow stronger. Jung wrote, "Mistakes are, after all, the foundations of truth." Failure strips away pretense, revealing what's real: your resilience, your courage, your ability to rise again. When no one's there to lift you, you learn to push off the ground yourself. For Lucas, the failure hurt, but it also showed him he'd ignored his intuition about the market. That lesson became his fire, pushing him to start a new project with clearer focus. Here's a real-world example. Meet Olivia, a 42-year-old teacher in Austin, who applied for a leadership role at her school. She prepared tirelessly, but the job went to someone else. The rejection stung, and with no one to cheer her up, she felt like giving up. But inspired by a book on Jung, she decided to see the failure differently. She asked, "What's this teaching me?" The answer: she'd been playing small, afraid to stand out. So, she started a side project, a mentorship program for students, and poured her energy into it. It wasn't the promotion, but it gave her purpose. A year later, her program caught the school's attention, and she was offered a better role. Her failure didn't break her, it built her. How do you turn failure into fuel? Try the lesson journal. After a setback, write down one thing you learned. "I trusted the wrong person. I need to plan better." Then add one action you'll take. "I'll research more next time." This practice, inspired by Jung's idea of integrating the shadow, turns pain into progress. Lucas did this, noting, "I learned to trust my gut. I'll test my next idea small first." Each lesson became a stepping stone, not a stumbling block. Another practice is visualizing the phoenix. Jung loved the myth of the phoenix, a bird that burns and rises anew. After a failure, close your eyes and picture yourself rising from the ashes. What's stronger now? What's clearer? For Olivia, it was her confidence to lead. This visualization helps you see failure as transformation, not defeat. Jung believed every fall is a call to individuation, a chance to become more of who you are. Self-validation and turning failure into fuel are how you get ahead when no one's there. You don't need applause to know your worth. You need to see it yourself. And you don't need success to keep going. You need the courage to learn from every fall. Jung's wisdom reminds us your power isn't in what the world gives you. It's in what you give yourself. Let's make this personal. What's one failure that taught you something? Or a moment you validated yourself? Share it in the comments. It might spark hope for someone else. And if this resonates, hit that like button and subscribe to Jung Psyche Hub for more tools to rise alone. Next, we'll uncover how to act with willpower and let go of needing others' understanding. Imagine this: Mia, a 31-year-old painter in Los Angeles, has been pouring her soul into her art for years. She creates vibrant canvases, each stroke a piece of her heart. But galleries pass her by. Friends rarely ask about her work, and her family calls it a hobby. After another rejection, Mia feels drained. No inspiration. No validation. Just silence. She wants to quit. But something stops her. A quiet voice inside says, "Keep going. Not for them, but for you." Carl Jung would call this voice the self, the inner compass that guides you when no one else does. In this final chapter, we'll explore 2 key steps to get ahead when no one's there: acting with willpower over fleeting emotions, and letting go of the need for others to understand you, so you can shine as your own light. Let's start with willpower. Jung believed that will is the force that transforms your psyche. Stronger than inspiration, because it doesn't rely on how you feel. Inspiration is like a spark, beautiful but fleeting. Willpower is the steady flame that keeps burning, even on your darkest days. For Mia, painting without recognition felt pointless at first. She waited for a burst of motivation, but it didn't come. Then she remembered Jung's words. Freedom of will is the ability to do gladly that which I must do. Freedom isn't chasing what feels good. It's choosing what matters, even when you're tired, unseen, or uninspired. Mia decided to paint 1 hour a day. No matter how she felt, some days were sluggish, but each stroke was a promise to herself. Over months, her portfolio grew, not because she was inspired, but because she was disciplined. How do you cultivate willpower? Try the 1-step rule. When you feel stuck like Mia staring at a blank canvas, commit to 1 small action. Write 1 sentence. Take 1 walk. Make 1 call. Jung saw these acts as bridges between your ego and yourself, aligning you with purpose over mood. Mia started with small sketches, telling herself, just 1 line today. Those lines became paintings, and eventually, a local café displayed her work. Willpower isn't about grand gestures. It's about showing up when no one's watching. Neuroscience backs this: small actions trigger dopamine, the brain's reward chemical, building momentum even when motivation is low. So, when you're alone and uninspired, don't wait for a spark. Just take 1 step. Another practice is setting intention anchors. Each morning, write down 1 goal that aligns with your deeper purpose. Like today, I'll work on my dream for me, not for applause. Read it aloud to root it in your unconscious. Mia did this. Writing. I paint to express my soul, not to impress. This kept her focused, even when no one noticed. Jung believed willpower connects you to the self, the part of you that acts for meaning, not validation. When you move forward without needing to feel ready, you're not just surviving, you're thriving. Now, let's talk about letting go of needing understanding. Jung wrote, your visions will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. When Mia craved recognition, she was asking others to see her worth. But no one can fully grasp your inner journey, not your friends, not your family. And that's not their fault. Everyone's caught in their own search for meaning. Expecting them to understand your depth is like asking them to read a book only you've written. The truth, you don't need their understanding to shine. Your soul already knows the way. Here's a real-world example. Meet Ethan, a 45-year-old writer in New York, who spent years crafting a novel. He shared drafts with friends, hoping for praise, but got polite nods or silence. It hurt. But inspired by Jung, he shifted his focus. He asked, why am I writing the answer to tell a story that mattered to him? He stopped sharing drafts and wrote for himself. In that solitude, his work deepened, and a small publisher eventually picked it up. Ethan's breakthrough came not from being understood, but from trusting his own vision. Jung would call this individuation, becoming whole by listening to your inner voice, not the world's. How do you let go of needing understanding? Try inner dialogue. Sit quietly and ask, what does my soul need right now? Maybe it's rest, a new goal, or just a reminder that you're enough. Write the answer down. Jung used this technique, called active imagination, to connect with the unconscious. Ethan did this, asking his heart, what's my story for? The answer to create something true gave him clarity. This practice helps you hear your soul over the silence of others. Another tool is visualizing your lighthouse. Picture yourself as a lighthouse, standing firm in a stormy sea. You don't move for attention, you shine because it's who you are. When Mia felt ignored, she visualized this, reminding herself, my art is my light, and I shine for me. This kept her grounded, even without validation. Jung believed that when you stop seeking external understanding, you become a center of gravity, radiating a presence that others feel, even if they don't understand. Acting with willpower and letting go of needing understanding are how you get ahead alone. You don't need inspiration to act just one step forward. And you don't need others to see your path. Your heart already knows it. Jung's wisdom teaches us the world may be silent, but your soul is loud enough to guide you. Let's make this real. What's one small action you'll take today? Or a moment you trusted your own vision? Share it in the comments, it could light someone's path. And if this resonates, hit that like button and subscribe to Jung Psyche Hub for more tools to shine on your own. Next, we'll wrap up with how to bring all these steps together to rise as your own light. Here we are, at the end of a journey through solitude. Guided by Carl Jung's wisdom, you've learned 4 powerful steps to get ahead when no one's there for you, embracing loneliness as a teacher, soothing yourself and silencing complaints, validating your own, worthwhile turning failure into fuel, and acting with willpower without needing others' understanding. These steps aren't just tools, they're a map to yourself. The unshakable core, Jung said, holds your true strength. Let's bring it home with one final story. Meet Aisha, a 38-year-old nurse in Atlanta. After years of working double shifts to support her kids, she dreamed of starting a community health program. Her colleagues dismissed it. Her family doubted her. But Aisha kept going. She sat with her loneliness, journaled her fears, celebrated her small wins, and acted daily, even without applause. Today, her program helps hundreds, and she glows not because others saw her, but because she saw herself. That's your power. Every time you choose solitude over distraction, action over complaints, or your own validation over external praise, you're not just moving forward, you're becoming your own light. Jung said, who looks inside awakes. The world may be silent, but your soul isn't. It's whispering, you're enough. Keep going. So, don't wait for someone to lift you up. Rise, shine, and walk your path, knowing your strength was always within. Let's make this real. Which step hit you hardest today? Was it embracing loneliness, stopping complaints, validating yourself, or acting with? We'll drop it in the comments. Your story could spark hope for someone else. If this video lit a fire in you, hit that like button, share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe to Jung Psyche Hub with the bell icon to never miss a tool for your journey. You don't need a crowd to get ahead, you just need you. So, go out there and shine.